the Mayan civilization and 2012. Let's take a look back at this timeline, the Mayan people, and see how it relates to Bible prophecy, but also the historicity of the Bible and dinosaurs. They have an interesting calendar, interesting timeline, and we're going to stick high level here. But this is history.com. And just a brief couple of words about this. And we're going to take a look at the calendar. I think it's very interesting, and some of their eschatological beliefs. In ancient Maya, whose early settlements date back to about 2,000 years BC, what is 2,000 years before Christ? Well, that is about the time of the flood of Noah. So they lived in present-day southern Mexico and North Central America. As a civilization, they are recognized for their sophisticated calendar systems and hieroglyphic writings. People thousands of years ago were not cavemen. They were very, very intelligent. In fact, I suggest to you that they were more intelligent than you and I. They were much closer to Adam and Eve, what God created as very good. And so they had probably a lot more information, a lot more skills and ability. They were a lot healthier than we are now. And so, folks, don't believe that our ancestors were monkeys or lived in caves. They were actually smarter than us. Look at the civilization and the pyramids and things that stood thousands of years after them that we can still look at. What buildings that we create today will last that long? That's a good question, right? Around 8250, the Maya entered what's known as the Classic Period, an era in which they built flourishing cities and with temples and palaces, and a population size peaked. However, by the end of the Classic Period, around 8900, almost all the major cities in what was then the heart of Mayan civilization, the southern lowland regions in present-day northern Guatemala and neighboring portions of Mexico, Belize, and Honduras, had been abandoned. Now, it's important to know that the Mayans, the Inca, and I think there was another tribe, they lived generally in the same area, that Mexico area down there. This is from News Illustrated, put out, I guess, just before 2012. And this is the big thing, the 2012, the end of a cycle for the Mayans. We in our Western world, everybody thought it was the end of the world. The Mayans always believed that it was a cycle. Some theorists believe December 21st, 2012 spells doomsday for the world based on a system of calendars developed by a Mayan civilization more than 2,300 years ago. By the way, do you know that if indeed there were a civilization since the flood of Noah, that likely means they knew Noah. They probably spoke to him, and all this oral history and oral tradition and this oral message of the creation of the world would have been passed along, and it would have changed and morphed, as like a game of telephone. But these people would have likely known who Noah was. They probably have a name for Noah. I haven't delved that far into it, but they probably have a name or a specific person that they got this information from, and you may be surprised that it comes from maybe someone called Noah. So this is a 260-day calendar, which is interesting in and of itself, used primarily for crop rotation, but it was a series of interconnected gears that they had created to keep time, to tell time. And they believe the current cycle ended in 2012. The long count, you can't see this at the bottom here, but it says the long count, a continuous count of days, includes a 5,125 year era called the Great Cycle. Now that's kind of similar to 6,000 years, isn't it? Interesting that they have a 5,125 year cycle. The current cycle began about 3,000 years BC and ends December 21st, 2012. I think maybe they got a close timeline of things. Theorists believe that the end of the Great Cycle means the end of the world. The Maya believe the world continues after the end of cycles. And what does the Bible say? Well, it says the earth will continue even after the wrath of God comes. Let's take a look at their eschatology. This is the eschatology of the 5 sons, and we're going to take a look at a couple sons here. I don't know if I can Maybe I can get this bigger so you can read it here. Let's see this. There you go. In creation myths, it says, the term five sons refers to the belief that certain Nahu cultures and Aztec peoples, again, Aztec, Mayan, Inca, all from the similar area, Mexico, Mesoamerican region, they believe that the world has gone through five distinct cycles of creation and destruction, with current era being the fifth. So that we're in the end of that era, if the Mayan calendars is off a bit. And these people, again, they would have started from the flood of Noah, because it was only Noah and his family that came through the flood. No other cultures or peoples came through. So all the peoples and cultures, the Chinese included, they would have been from the sons of Noah and the generations that started after that. So same with the Mayan. So let's go to the five sons summary. If we zip down to the bottom of Wikipedia here, we see this brief summary, and it goes through a jaguar son. Inhabitants were giants who were devoured by jaguars. What does the Bible say? There were giants in the land in those days and after. So there were giants prior to the flood and after the flood. So they are recognizing a truth here, although it's a little bit vague, it's a little bit twisted, but they are recognizing the truth that there were giants in the land. And the world was destroyed. Why? Because of the giants. Inhabitants were transformed into monkeys. The world was destroyed by hurricanes. That's interesting. After the flood of Noah, there would then be hurricanes. Prior to that, there was a canopy which kept the world warm and tropical all around. There might not have been a lot of wind, but after the canopy, certainly with the poles, and the northern and southern pole, the Arctic, that would have created a lot of wind as the ice magnetically shifted towards the poles after the ice canopy was destroyed as part of the flood of Noah. That would have created significant wind currents on Earth. So there would be a lot of winds. There would have been a lot of catastrophic hurricanes as well. They would have, if we were alive then, the stories would have been about climate change causing it all. The rain son. Let's see. Inhabitants were destroyed by rain of fire. Only birds survived. Now this is interesting. The water son. The world was flooded during the inhabitants, turning the inhabitants into fish. What happened is they died and they were eaten by fish during the flood of Noah. A couple escaped, but were transformed into dogs. Now I don't know where they get this idea that they were transformed into dogs, but is this describing Noah and his family escaping the great flood, which basically killed everybody else? Interesting. And then the final sign, the earthquake son. What does the Bible say in Revelation chapter 12? There's going to be a great earthquake. Current humans are the inhabitants of this world. Should the gods be displeased, the world will be destroyed by earthquakes. Or, look at this, or one large earthquake. Go read Revelation chapter 6. Describes the great earthquake. And there's a great earthquake when Jesus descends the second time and his feet touch upon the Mount of Olives and it splits in two. No greater earthquake will the world have experienced to that point. That will be the greatest earthquake ever. And the Zitzmenmai, I can't even pronounce that, will annihilate all its inhabitants. Is that speaking of the destruction, the wrath of God falling upon the earth after a great earthquake comes? That's exactly what Christian eschatology, that's exactly what the Bible says. There will be a great earthquake and then the wrath of God. And God will bring justice and he will clean up the evil in this world to get it ready for the new period. And this is what the Maya understood, that the world will not end, but there would be a great destruction. And that's what this is describing. By the way, if the Maya were around at the flood of Noah, just after, they would have lived with dinosaurs, wouldn't they, if Genesis is true? Do we see any evidence of the Maya knowing about, recognizing dinosaurs? Well, let's look at this. The Mayas knew about dinosaurs. This is an image of a rock wall, a carving they did. What does that look like there? That looks like a dinosaur. That looks like a triceratops, maybe. Huh. And who knows what the creatures are around, but look at that. Here is another one. That's, a Stegosaurus. It was a Stegosaurus Rex, maybe with the spikes in the back. Look at this one. These are the Inca stones. And this is pictures of what looks like there. Let's see. What looks like here is a Tyrannosaurus Rex right there. This looks like a stegosaur. I don't see the three horns on it to make it a triceratops. But that's a dinosaur. If you look in your dinosaur books, that's exactly what it looks like. Look at this one. Brontosaurus here with the long neck, big body, big long tail. That looks like a brontosaurus, doesn't it? And you have a triceratops here in the bottom and a stegosaurus right here. You have, and look at this, even a pterodactyl. You can know that by, you can see, you can't quite see, but if you look up the Inca stones, you can see the pterodactyl, the bone on the back of their head as they're flying. That's all there. Civilizations, 200 years ago and further in the past, it was common knowledge that there were dinosaurs and they lived with dinosaurs. They literally live with them. It's only the last 200 years where the narratives has been to make that disappear from history, to make you believe that these people were stupid and cavemen. These people were very intelligent, very articulate, had huge skills, better skills. They were smarter, they were stronger than we are today, folks. Remember, what does science tell us? Well, entropy is occurring. We move from order to disorder. Do you think humans are not following the same track from order to disorder? Do you not think that we're losing intelligence, losing ability, losing skills, losing knowledge? We absolutely are. Every being, everything in the universe follows the idea of entropy from order to chaos. It's hubris, pure hubris, and just pride that man would think, no, we're actually getting better, even though everything else in science is getting worse, moving to chaos. Here's another Inca stone. That's a triceratops. Look at those horns there, triceratops. And you got the bones on the back there. What's this up top? Is that maybe that looks like a fish or something? But anyways, I think every kid would see that and say, that looks like a dinosaur in my dinosaur book. And that's exactly what it is, folks. So very interesting about the five sons, the Mayan culture, what they believe. They're basically, their earthquake son, I would suggest, is the eschatology that they understood, that there would be a big earthquake and then the wrath of God, the gods, God is displeased. There are not gods, unless they're talking about the mighty men, where the Nephilim came down and intermarried with the women of men and created those kind of supernatural half beings that we call the Roman gods, like Atlas and Hercules and these sorts of characters in Greek mythology. They call it mythology, but I think it's really Greek history, what they're describing there. Maybe not all the details are accurate, but that's what it is. But they are describing a time, and I think God showed himself to them. God gave them this knowledge and said, look, there will come a time when I'm going to come and deal with the nations, and before I come, there's going to be a great earthquake, and this is what they recorded. So, folks, I think this is fascinating, and it's another indication of that God gives and reveals himself to all peoples in all languages, even though the history, the story as it's passed down orally changes over time, you still understand the main base narrative of the history of the world, that there is a God, that there is sin, that men are destroyed because of the wrath of God as the gods are displeased, quote unquote, and that God is coming again. There's going to be a great earthquake. And so the Mayan people, if there are any left, those people recognize that when there's a great earthquake, look out, the wrath of God is coming. So they need to be right with their Creator. I'll leave there, guys. Hope you found that interesting. All the cultures of the world, just Chinese, the Mayan, they all have similar histories of a flood, of a great flood, of a single family, single group of people. Remember here it talks about only a couple escaped the great flood as the world was flooded, the water sun prophecy there. So they all have this same history, but they're just a little changed, just a little distorted as it's been thousands of years since. So, folks, I'll leave it there, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.